somebody who knows that song and wide on the chorus. But everybody can relate to, she did like Gets No Love and all this other stuff, and I'm Every Woman, no brainers. And you know, like what you want. So you can go, yo, I'm Every Woman, you know what I'm looking for. Show me the women in the house who are singing. I don't want to see no dude singing that, you know. So you go down and you kind of know what you must have. You know, these are the things that are going to make that song hotter and push that story forward. So R&B is like a combination of both. It still goes north and south, not as 360 as gospel. But what you really need to find is people singing the chorus and various, you know, parts in the song, and you'll be straight.
Let's shift and talk comedy a little bit. That's like the sort of the dark horse, but I think it's one of the more interesting things.
Mm-hmm.
Strictly because, like, on one hand, sure, the blocking may be a little bit easier. You've got one guy,
Mm-hmm.
typically a microphone,
Mm-hmm.
and audience reacts. But I think comedy can be tricky because what if the guy's really funny? Does it take you out, or does it take your camera guy out, or how does?
No, it doesn't. Comedy is way closer to gospel than you know. He's telling a story. He's telling a story. So all I need to do is put pictures up that help move his story forward. Often before the comedy shows, I executive produce and direct Funny AF for Revolt for P. Diddy. And I've done it now for 2 years. For me, my rule of thumb, and I was obviously doing Comic View for 10 or 12 years, whatever I did it. For me, what I do is when the audience is loading, I either sneak behind the camera or I just sit to the side of the stage where nobody's really paying attention to me. And I call my camera guy over and I go, interracial couple, funny hat, green suit over there in that chair, blah, blah, blah over here, dude wearing a Raiders hat, blah, blah, blah. And you can start to pick a few people that you know at some point will come up in a joke. Boom. How many people on a first date? What's the interracial couple that we talked about? Got him. What's the deal with white people? Got it. Man, sometimes when I go out, I try to look clean. Boom, got it. Dude in the green suit. So you don't know everywhere he's going to go, but you can set a little bit of a template that you know he can get to certain places that you know will help move that comedian story forward. Now, it's strange. I do a lot of music and I do, you know, my share of sports pregame shows and all that other stuff. But the one I love directing the most is comedy. That's the one I like stand up. I like helping him tell a story. And the way comedy's going right now, I'm really enjoying it. It is less audience reaction shots now. You'll get a few in there. Like the thing I hated about Comic View back in the day was just like it was just a reaction shot every other joke. And in my world, you broke up the information that was trying to be conveyed by inserting a reaction shot every time. And back in the early days, it was just thought that the audience had to be prompted when to laugh. But now, not as much. Those shots are comboed. It is foreground elements of audience with the comedian in the background kind of thing. So those type of things that make it a little easier to shoot and also makes it more storytelling. When he looks at a camera, when he looks up, is there an overhead shot? You know, those type of things that move that story forward. Yeah, comedy is probably the best use of Pamela Fryman showing me how to direct sitcoms and me cutting music because I use steady in my comedy. I like, to me, what I try to do when it comes to comedy, and really for talk shows as well, but for comedy itself, I do my best to put the television viewing audience in the club. So rather than just shoot Sky, I'm going to get that over the shoulder Sky from a seat in the house. I'm going to use that steady to go to the back of the club and show Sky as he's walking back and forth. If I'm lucky, I can give you more of an experience than you just laughing. And that's usually my secret to shooting comedy is that how can I put you in the seat? I don't want you to watch my comedy shows. I want you to hang with me for an hour and we get some laughs on. So that's usually how I try to cut them.
As I'm listening, you're starting to shift in and talking about these different trends, how you shoot, gospel versus uh, comedy, or how they're similar.
Mhm.
How do you start to formulate or stay on top of like the trends and what's current in shooting styles and technology? Because I think that's a huge part of what the game is too.
Sure. Yeah. I definitely have my own style. And some of these trends that are happening in some of these shows, to me, the lighting is just too dark. How many times have you watched the Grammys or something like, yo, I can't even see them? I don't think it should be bright like you're watching Ellen's show, but I don't think it should be dark either. So for that trend, I'm not a fan of. And I'm still a little old school in the sense of I'm not still a fan of jump cuts. Now dudes just jump cut all the time, going from a wide to a wide to this and that. I'm not that. But I will tell you, having done so many sports desk shows, and currently right now I do game day morning for the NFL Network as well as Fox boxing show, but game day morning is my primary desk show for the NFL season. I also do the Super Bowl pregame show for them as well at the stadium. But what altered my directing style for shooting shows nowadays was video games. When you watch someone play a video game, they can go first person, they can put the camera angle over here, put the camera angle over there. The youth now are practically directing their own stuff. Even in how they watch it. It used to be a situation where you couldn't do too much because eyes couldn't follow it. And now, movement is what works. Movement is how it works. And now I see my son play a racing game, and 1 minute he's in the car, and then he goes to the outside of the car, and then he goes over here, and then he's got the outside window, then he has reverse. I'm like, shoot, he can pretty much pick any shot he wants. He understands. So I'm going to have to now show him more shots when I direct and different angles. And so I brought that a lot, especially to my talk shows and my desk shows, where I will take steady and I will slide it right in between Michael Irvin and Kurt Warner, looking between those two, looking back at Rich Eisen. My hope is that I put you in the chair. I put you at the desk with my guys. And so I started using that, how people play Madden, as my influence for what the audience accept. Now, what I do is there is a method to my madness. I don't randomly go willy-nilly on all these cool shots. I always flatten the scene out. Cool shot, single, cool shot, two shot. I still have to slow it down a little bit so you can take it in. And that even goes into my directing. If I know I've got a killer steady move coming up, you can best believe I'm going to be on a single prior to that killer steady move. I'm not going to be on the jib on a wide shot swinging before I go down to a steady that's swinging down below. It is fact, art, fact, art. But if you go art, 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 you just blew it. I couldn't even concentrate on the scene because shit's flying everywhere. But sprinkle them in. I also like to misdirect the audience a lot. I like to think that what they think they're seeing is going to be it. And then I give them something more. And I started doing that. When did I start? I did BT, I'm even sure called BT Rip the Runway.
Yes, I remember the Rip the Runway. Is that sure?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was what I was like. Oh, that okay. I got a fan for me.
Yeah, don't make me feel old.
No,
So,
I mean I wasn't that. I was still in high school, but I knew that I
right,
wanted in production. But I remember watching those Rip the Runways, and just
right.
that whole. I mean, that was the first time you saw like a square runway.
Mm-hmm. That
So
is
I know
correct.
that was already innovative in how you had to deal with a runway show, and you had performances and
And that was interesting. So you talk about stepping out on a limb. That was stepping out on a limb because they said, poof, here's the set. How would you shoot this? Normally when you shoot a concert, anybody on stage, you've seen it. You know what? I've had you on camera too. Wide and tight. There you go. Got a cross. All good. You got your jib. You may add another one. You know, whatever specialty cameras, but your base cameras are 2 pads in the middle, across left and right, and a jib, and a steady running up and down. And then the rest you can sort out with handhelds or whatever little specialty camera you want to get. But if you've got this square, and then there's a mosh pit in the middle, if you remember, and then the stage is in the back of that, and there are models coming down left and right. What's your plan? And I stared at it, and I was with at that time it was John Cosette and Jeff Collins who did it. And I stared at it and I said, I need 3 pads, all in the middle. And so basically you had 3 pads in the middle. One took one way, one took the other one way, and the one in the middle hit the stage. And the jib held the master, and the one in the middle could hang the single. And the one pad, as they came down, would tilt up. And you remember the move was always the tilt from the feet up as they pull. And as they made their way down to the end of the runway, Steady was waiting at the end of the runway, and he would carry them across. And it was a dump. So he would carry and he would dump. Inside the pit, there are 2 handhelds. And that one handheld is facing one way, shooting back, so you can see behind him as they walk down. And the other handheld was shooting at the edge of the stage that could catch them as he made his way out and around the stage and out. He could also catch the singer as a low-angle God shot if they were performing on stage as well. And so that's how I did it. It was really unique blocking. I was just like, that was when I just did the BET Comedy Awards and then got hired for that. And I was starting to kind of make a little inroads. And that's when I thought, you're getting close to arriving now. You're getting close to being able to do some things right now. You're on your way. John Cosette was a big time producer. He did the Grammys. He was a major player. He liked me. I liked him a lot. He's late great John Cosette, I should say. And that was when I was like, okay, you're making little inroads now. And it worked. And it was so much fun to do. And I had stuff in the screen, and you remember, it was just off the chain. It was just dope. And so with that being said, the person who edited that show was Garish Bhargava. I was friends with his daughter, Anthony, who was a terrific lady who works on The Voice. And he was a terrific editor, just really good editor. And we cut it, and it was all good. And it was strange because you have to look at time code. So if you think about all those cameras that I said, if he's here, what's he doing here? And if he's there, what's he doing over here? You look at Rip the Runway, all those shots match, even though those cameras are ISO'd. They're exactly where they want to be, and everything looks like nobody skipped a frame. And so we came up with that, and Garish just absolutely edited the hell out of it. Everything was cool. But then we got to A. Marie, who did one thing. It's just, she was so fine and everything. And she was the first talent. She was the first talent. And my wife always gets mad at me about this. She was the first talent. When you come to Rip the Runway and you're a talent, you go, let me show you how the stage is going to work. And I've been around talent the whole time. A. Marie was the first talent that put her arm in mine as we walked the stage. And so I was just sprung. You know, I was mad. Oh my God, I can't even read it. I was like, what? And she just looked so dope. And I was just like, okay. I said, Anthea, I said, here's what I want for A. Marie. I said, I need to get some fans to line the stage. So when she walks, her hair blows. And they had just did, you know, that Victoria's Secret, you know,
the fashion show. Yeah.
She pulled the fans from there because they were still in New York. And we put the fans all the way around so the hair would blow as Marie came around. And me and Garish, everybody else, we could edit bang, bang, bang. Garish saw her and he just fell in love, just like I did. We spent 3 days just editing her shit alone. And it's on my webpage, so it's on TonyMcCuin.com. But if you look at it, he buried so many shots. We wanted it to be a fantasy,
Yeah.
which was really dope. But we did not want to go away from real life. So how do you make something a fantasy and feel like you're watching this whole magical thing, but still have a sense of being live to tape? And so we use transitions and different little things that were elements in that room to make transitions. And we skipped framed and we did all this stuff. If you watch that, I tell you what, Garish was such a dope editor that I watched that thing about 8 months ago and saw an edit that I didn't know he stuck in there. And Garish passed away 2 years ago. And I went, I got you, my man. I got it. So with that being said, he was such a dope editor that he altered how I directed moving forward. I wanted to be able to direct the way Garish edited. And it started altering how I cut shows because I was so blown away by how well he edited.
That's amazing.
And it was bananas. So he played a role in some of the shots. So I say that to say misdirects. It is not uncommon if I do something fancy that I will often, like for instance, shooting a screen. One time, when I was cutting Marie, she was dancing and she was going around, and you're on a wide shot. And then I took a shot of her on a single. The single was in the screen, and it looked like I just took a single. And then he pulled out to reveal Marie coming down the aisle. A misdirect. I like when you go, oh, I got it. That's not what I thought it was. Mm-hmm. So those type of things, I always try to sneak into my shows. That how can I get you? How can I trick you into thinking that you think that this is going to happen, and then this happens instead? So I look for those little surprises in the audience, and also I like surprising my producers. I like for them to. I like when I can make someone gasp in the truck. If you can turn your producers into TV watchers where they're no longer talking, they're just freaking enjoying the show, job well done. I have 2 rules. One, if I can make my wife cry in a performance that she's watching and she actually goes to tears, and the other is that the producers actually start watching TV. If they go, oh my God, look at Jamie Foxx over in the corner. That's so funny. Great shot. We're good.
So let's as you're talking about this, and as I've been listening, you've been talking about all these amazing people that you work with on your crews, and I've had the pleasure of being with some of them. Going back to the thought of the energy, the strategy, and understanding what it is that you need as you're putting out your pages, or as you're marketing your pages. How do you start to develop your crew and pick your crew? And
you give them shots. I've got a few guys that I've given shots because you have to expand your crew, because after a while, your top 8 will quickly become your top 5 because all of a sudden it becomes somebody else's top 8. So you have to try to expand your crew. And crew is so important because sometimes crew determines your shots. When you know for a fact this is Skyler's specialty. Stan Fisher does this thing where he can do a terrific rack focus off of an ear to a singer. Earring, foreground, you don't even know what you're looking at, singers in the background, total freaking film move, and he just, and go. And he racks it on. I know I got that shot. That shot came from Comic View freaking 6 years ago that Stan started doing it, racking off of glasses as the comedian's talking. He started doing it, and I just brought it on. So you've got certain guys, Travis did that 720. He freaking circled that choir twice. I got that shot now. That's in my hip pocket. And so the beauty of having a crew that can roll with you is the magic of shorthand. Hey, remember that thing we did when we were at the Soul Train Awards? Yeah, we're going to do the same thing, only this time it's going to start over here. And everyone's going to go, got it. And you can go. So that's what you love. You love the shorthand that you get from a good crew. And, you try to build that crew and you try to add more to it and you try to have more, guys who can fit, because more than just finding a good camera person, you have to find someone that fits the rest of the crew. But this guy could be killer, but everybody else is miserable. So it gets a little weird in terms of how you pick. And crew members are your children. They want to know that they're your favorite. And so there are some times when you're just like, I'm going to have to go with Skyler because Mike is just not getting it done. And then Mike is wondering, what did I do? What's going on? And, that sad realization as a director, when you start to realize that Mike doesn't have it anymore, that Mike is slipping. And we all slip. Shit, I'm slipping. So I got it. But you just, after a while, you go, Mike doesn't have it. And you can see Mike move to that second tier that he's moved. And, sometimes you'll get a replacement. They couldn't make it. Another dude comes in and replace, and then that other dude sets it on freaking fire. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you, T, but here's another guy. Other guy comes in and kills it. And then that guy who said he's sorry couldn't be there for you, T, you bring him back or you give it to the guy who killed it. Because at the end of the day, it's your show and you've got to make it work. So it's a struggle with crew members because I try not to get too close to them. Eventually you can't help it, but sometimes they do invite me out. You want to do this, you want to do that. And I would love to hang out with them. But I'm like, well, what if I have to fire you one day? I don't want you thinking that we had a Modelo together. So, it gets weird. And at the same time, you care about them. So sometimes their problems become your problems because they've got families and they've got this. And so, but at the same time, you need that kind of love because that makes its way into the show. So do I love them or don't I love them? Because definitely that love makes it into the show. And they'll take a bullet for you and they'll do this and they'll do that. But it's, it's like that coach and all of a sudden that running back has lost a step. And though he helped you win some Super Bowls, his time is up. And you get stuck at that crossroads. And so that's the part that's hard. But they, if they're having a good time and they're cutting it and they're good and they're laughing, you heard me trip on headsets before and I have a good time and I enjoy it. I still believe that it's not brain surgery, it's television. You're going to have to really blow some shit up for me to yell, and those kind of things, you still want it. You want everybody in on the gag. You want everybody in on the gag. And, we all work together, we're all fighting. But then there's a certain point where you're like, they've lost a step. And I've had crew members lose a step and like, what do I need to do? I've had crew members who, the weird ones are when you're just starting out and they're on your crew, they're all over you. Then they get a little popular because crew members are like freaking singers. They become flavors of the month. And all of a sudden they get popular and they start doing a lot of other jobs. And all of a sudden they start checking out of your job. Bro, we've always done this. And all of a sudden they're not with you. We did this for the last 10 years. What do you mean? Yeah, I got another one, blah, 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 blah. And then I'll become a woman scorn. And you find a dude and you're like, oh, my bad, dude. I was wrong. And you're not getting it back. You're not getting it back. And then they spend their whole time trying to get back. What do I have to do to get back on your team again? And you want to say that position's filled. It's like you're dating someone else. Like, that's it, bro. I got a new girl. That's kind of it. And then there are some, everybody's going to get out of jail with me card, free with me cards. So there are some people who can cancel, but you've never canceled on me before. So I'm going to give you this out. And the next time the show comes up, I'll give you first right of refusal. I'll always give you the first right. If Skyler's always been my dude on camera two, camera two, camera two, somebody comes in, they do camera two because Skyler couldn't make it, and then the show rolls back around again. I'll go, Skyler, you in or you out? And you'll say, I'm out. I still got this other show. You've lost that show forever with me. I'll put you on something else, but that's it. We're done now. We're cool, my man, all good. That's your show now. This person who did camera two last year, they've officially become the new dude. You know, but other than that, I've got a stage manager who I love. And one time he couldn't do this particular show. And the other stage manager who came in did a fantastic job. I know him too. Great guy. And, but when that show came back around the following year, I went to the original stage manager first. I know you can do it last year. You in or you out this year? And if he just said, I'm out, T, I'd be like, okay, great. The dude who I had last year has officially become his. I'll give you an out, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, totally. That's a great, I think, healthy way to handle the situation. And I think it's interesting because we work in such a relationship industry. It's very weird because you don't particularly know where you stand with everyone. You don't necessarily know when you're the guy, when you're not the guy, especially when you're up.
And there are bigger names than me that are hiring, so I got it.
Right. So it's really interesting to understand how the dynamics of relationship play.
So tough. It's by far, it's really tough. It's really, really tough, especially when you know that they've lost a step. And you can see it every annual show. You're like, last year you would have done this, but this year you're doing that. What else? Wow. And all of a sudden, you know they lost a step, and then you start almost trying to distance yourself from the crew member. And all of a sudden, and here it is, you can't escape. Because if you get a show and you hire the usual cast of, characters, most crew members are going to text, yo, did Tony put you on so-and-so? I just got a call from BET. I just got a call from, CBS. Did he put you on this? No, I don't know nothing about it. And then they'll text you. Yo, T, are you doing so-and-so? Yeah, I've already got a jib operator. I already got a handheld out. Oh. Well, I know you hired everybody but me. So that's part where it gets a little where you have to be 100 with them. And I try to be just 100. And then they operate scared and they play scared. And I get it. I get it. I don't want to lose my gig. I got it. But you have to be 100. And so it's my fault for going to that dude's barbecue. I should have never.
I think that's a dual-edged sword. Because on one hand, in real life, we do work in these situations.
Yes.
The rapport and real friendships. And I think it's better to be honest, in my opinion. Hey, I couldn't use you for this. Hey, we couldn't work on this, or the timing wasn't right, or whatever.
Right. Sure.
This, you're my guy. I love you.
Right.
Is better than nothing at all. And I understand everyone's personality doesn't yield for that understanding. Right. But in this industry where there's so many other unknowns, I think it sucks.
You know what? And I think that's a great point. I agree with you 100%.
It's hard being on the side of like, oh, I didn't make it this time. But I think if you've had this opportunity, I'm speaking for myself. I'm also speaking to those who hear this.
Sure. Yep.
On both sides. Like, there are people I love to death, and they'll say, yo, I can't use you on this one because I got to for this. I wanted you, but I got to get somebody else. Or you're perfect for this.
Sure.
And like you said, maybe you're not available, so they had to go to
something
else. So I think there are a lot of ways that could play out. I think we as a community,
it's best to be 100.
Yeah, we as a community have to be better with just being open and talking to each other. I think
you have to be 100. That's what I do.
That makes your crews amazing, because I could definitely feel the difference in atmosphere in a show I worked on with you versus a show I worked on with someone else.
Sure.
And I think because people understand what they're getting, not just in a director, but in a person, they're able to sit back and say, okay, what do you need? What can I do?
Sure,
Right.
absolutely.
You know, and there's not a question of where do I sit with the person. It's just did it work this time.
That's correct. And that's what I'm hoping to always convey. Yeah, just be 100.
So you've had sort of an uncanny career in the sense of you started as a director and you stayed a director and you've been able to move up.
Which is weird.
And there are some other people that have careers like that. They start as a camera off, they stay a camera off, or, you know, whatever that position is. What would you say to people, because most people don't get that experience and you have to move up through the ranks and fight your way.
Yep, it's weird.
These positions and battles. What would you say to someone who is working and has good rapport, or is doing what they're supposed to, but they're not in the position they want to be yet? Because there's this sort of weird situation of, oh, pick something and do it, but you typically can't pick what you want to do and do it.
Sure.
Versus like, you know, moving up and there's always these weird entries to barrier to you get to the next level. How do you kind of, what advice would you have for people that are finding themselves moving through the ranks, and how do you move up and move through conversations without getting stuck?
Right. Yeah. I think you have to. I think if you're already on a set, you're already at an advantage. You know, I sometimes always laugh to say, you know, you spent freaking, you know, $120,000 at a university and now you're working for me. So I say that to say, not making fun of the person with the education, but saying that, you know, it's hard to beat the school of hard knocks. You know, that's a tough diploma to beat. You know, and the fact that you're already on set and you're talking to people and you're watching what they do, because all of a sudden it'll hit you. You know, you thought you were going to be a director, and all of a sudden you watch what this lighting director did and went, holy cow, I had no idea. And they all come together. I'm fascinated by audio. I can't do audio, but I'm fascinated by it, how people mic it, how bands sound and all that other stuff. But I can't do audio, but I just want to know. And it eventually makes its way into my work. So you can jack of all trades TV a little bit before you figure out which thing you want to master. But it all goes together. It all goes together. It will eventually all connect. So as you make your way up, you know, I remember when I put you on camera for like the first Sunday Best to do some stuff, camera 2, whatever it was, but it was also because I would watch you play on that pad during the break when there was downtime. I didn't just jump on there. It was like, that dude's always jumping on pad. That dude is always jumping on pad. And he's always doing these pushes, and he's always doing this stuff. So as a director, you kind of go, I'm not sure if I would put him on 1 or 3, but I know for a fact he can handle camera 2. I've already seen his work. So you just watch how that person operates and how they go through their things, the questions that they ask in regards to, when you direct, what do you look for? You know, can I pick your brain? And I get that all the time in terms of, after the show, can I pick your brain? After the show, can I do this? Yeah, man. Anything you see. I am definitely a proponent of each one, teach one. So if they ask and they want to know what's going on, I'll tell them my mentality behind it. And to me, that was how I learned. Remember, I'm a combination of Pamela Fryman and John Woo and, you know, all this stuff, but I didn't go to college. So, and, you know, even bad people who do bad work, so a bad director or anything like that, one of my calls that I make is, I used to go, ready 1, take camera 1. Ready 2, take camera 2. Top 5 worst directors I've ever seen. This guy would say, ready 1 take, ready 2 take. He trimmed a half a second off of his call. I stole that call all day. All day. My point being that even if someone's not quite doing it right, everybody's got something you can take that you can learn from. Ready one, take one. Ready two, take two. Ready one, take. Ready three, take. Ready four, take. Go five, take, go. Boom, got it. I got 5 shots in less than 4 seconds. Simply because I didn't say ready one, take one. Ready one, take. You know where I'm at now? I'm already on to my next shot. I'm already looking at 3. One's online. I'm off. I'm gone. Ready one, take one. I'm still on 1. Ready one, take. I'm now looking at 4. I'm looking at reactions. Ready 5, take. Now I'm looking at 6. Looking at 3. Worst director I've ever seen. And I was like, he condensed his call. He shortened his call. That's the one I want. In fact, I always know when I'm being a little sloppy when I say ready one, take one. And I know when I'm in the zone when I say ready one, take. That's when I know, okay, it's about to be on right now. Stuff's about to go boom. So to be around, so to answer your point about moving up that ladder, it is just constantly, watching, observing, and I'm just sitting in the back of the control room. Here I am. We're both directors. We're both on the same staff. It's all good. I'm just sitting back. And the show was at Fox, and it was when Fox Sports first launched, and it was just one long 3-hour show. Pre-game, go to commercial, blah, 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 come in the middle segments, the whole shebang, and I'm just sitting there with my scripts and my rundown in my hand, and this guy's directing. And then when he throws to break, he's going to slide out of the chair, and me and my AD, we slide in the chair. And I'm just standing behind him, and I went, son of a bitch, this call's better than mine. That's the one. That's can hit the side of a building. That call right there, that's it, my man. You just saved me a second. You just made me faster. And still gave me a ready cue, rather than just saying, take one, take two. And the TD's having to guess. So just being around it, it's a bit of osmosis, and it will seep in, and you will start to watch and see and blah, 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 and such and such. And then it comes down to that Tony McCuin or that Otis Howard or that head dude going, man, this dude is always on it. This dude, I never have to, this dude is always on it. There may be something there. If you knew how close you came to doing camera 2 for this year's Sunday Best, you would fall out. And you would legitimately fall out. I mean, like, nope. If this person who I know isn't going to be able to fly in and do this, this is who I want. And so, yeah. And I was like, okay, I got it. So keep that hunger because other folks can spot it. Like I said, you got on that first one and started doing a little something for, and I remember somebody couldn't show up at one point. I was like, oh, if it doesn't work out, I think I may put Skyler on there. And he was always goofing around with that camera. You just always wanted a moment to push and to blah, blah, blah. And when you're wanting to get on camera and those kind of things, and you're practicing and pushing and all that other stuff, one of the things that you'll always do is, and most people do, is you'll hunt. You start hunting for shots while you're by yourself, pulling down from off of a banister. Man, you want to win my heart as a camera operator? Let that dude be clowning around on Jib. Let that dude just start kind of flying around and exploring the set, is what I call it. Let him start exploring the set. What? It is a wrap. It is an absolute wrap. If he explores the set, it's an absolute wrap. It is an absolute wrap. And then, just like I told you with the executive, let me work on it. Come back. Let me show you something. This is what I have for you. It works the exact same way for me. I've had plenty of Jib operators. Brando, who did it the year before last, he explored the hell out of that set. And I was like, Tony, what do you think of this? Like, where did you get that from? Yes, I'll take it. Yes. I don't know what you see. I don't know what's coming out of your eye. All I got is what flies through that screen. And I can block a few things here and there, but you're going to find something else simply by exploring that set. When they do that, there's a real good chance you're going to stay on my crew. There's a huge chance you're going to stay on my crew. Yo, Travis, I was up here behind camera 1 and I could come down and swing around the Erica, and you can, yeah. Guess what? You're on my squad forever. I treat you all as directors. There can only be one, but I expect you to also produce your position and be proactive and not reactive. So that's what I'm looking for, and that's how you move quickly up that ladder. I've had dudes who've come in as a joke. Oh, fuck it, bring him in. I just need a dude to do this camera. I'm like, what the? Holy cow! I had no idea. I did this whole freaking in between show kind of thing for, I don't know if you ever heard of Rolling Loud, big concert. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I did the it was in between shows and all this other stuff to get you from, one show to another. And it was movement. And we would go back and forth between backstage with Cardi B and this and that and all this other stuff. And there was a concert guy who was doing handhold at the concert. And I didn't know if I was going to get an interview or not. So the talent would go backstage, and either Cardi B was going to walk on this side, or Cardi B was just going to jump in the limo and go, because that's how Rolling Loud worked. The freaking Suburban pulls up in the back, and they just leave, smelling like weed, and they're out. That's it. That's all we're going to do. And so maybe you get them, maybe you don't. So you're like, the concert's about to end. You've agreed with the director who's directing the concert that you're going to break off camera 6, and he's going to plug in the back and do this. And there was a camera operator, and he was always there. He was always there. He was just like, okay, boom, T, I'm waiting. I don't see Cardi. I'm waiting again. And it would be like 5 minutes before his concert's about to start. He would wait till the freaking bitter end. And I needed that. And he would and I'll go, okay, man, you can break off. We're not getting Cardi B. Move on to the main set. And he would go and then go shoot his concert. And he was always there. And most camera guys are like, yo, I'm doing this concert. I can't be doing this shit for you too. Yo, I just want to shoot my concert and get a break, because Rolling Loud is back to back to back to back. So I got it. I wouldn't want to do that either. It's like, when you're directing pregame at a game and you're asking game cameras to shoot Tom Brady for you. And game camera operators like, yo, I'm shooting the game when the time comes. I don't want to work now. They dragging their ass because I got a whole 3 hours when you'll be gone. And that's how they see it. But this dude was always there. He was always there, unplugging, plugging in, ready to go. When it was over, I got his name and his number. He did the Image Awards with me. He did my freaking comedy show. And I tried to pull him on the last Image Awards, but he was already booked. So yes, it works. It happens all the time.
Let's switch gears a little bit, because we've talked a lot about the in studio and directing, thinking about how to process our talent. I want to talk to you a little bit about how you set up your shows and pitch shows, because you actually have a production company. You do that side too.
Right.
What has that process been like for you? And what
I don't pitch as much as I used to. I guess the real big show I pitched was, I had a short-lived show on BET called Ballers, which was a late night sports show with John Sally.
Yeah, I remember that.
I executive produced and pitched that out of my production company. And that was a lot of fun. And I enjoyed doing that. And you had, people like freaking Reginald Hutland, who was at BET, and Robin Latiker Johnson and Byron Phillips. And so they were like family. And, the bad news for Ballers was that it hit when things were getting a little goofy, and it was hard to get sponsorship because nobody knew what was going on with recessions and stuff like that. Otherwise, it was a great show, and it was a lot of fun to do. So when you pitch, you just have to make sure you're pitching to the right network, obviously. As one executive told me, what you can't do when you pitch is act like they would be a fool for not taking this show. So you can't say, you have to act as if you're bringing them a gift, but you can't act like you know what's best for their network. When I pitched this show, the first show I thought about was, who's better than BET? And I remember a network executive saying to me, she was a friend, so we were talking, she says, I hate when people say that. And I go, why do you hate that? And she says, because how do you know what my network needs? How do you know? How can you tell me what it needs? Now, if you've got an agent, you got some folks, networks will put out a sheet of these are the shows that we're looking for. Co-viewing, aspirational, inspirational, blah, 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 such and such. And then you'll kind of search your Rolodex of shows that you've developed, and hopefully you've got something that makes sense to them. And then, you know, what helps, obviously, is no brainer. You've got a host attached to it. So you can say anything you want and go, I've got this thing that's all about baby elephants. And I like it. And you're meeting with BET. They go, baby elephants, we don't do that baby elephants thing. You go, yeah. And here's a letter from Kevin Hart saying that he's going to do it. Talent's attached. And it's Kevin Hart. Kick rocks. We're doing a baby elephant show. That's how that's going to go. So, it definitely helps to have talent attached. You can go the flip side, and you can have, sometimes you can pitch a show to a network, and I'm a little guy, and I can pitch a show to a network, and they go, that's fantastic. We love it. Networks always have a group of production companies that they like to work with. So they may say, we love the show. We think it's great. We're going to pair you with Jesse Collins. And Jesse, and then what you can do, let's say they paired me with Jesse Collins. And so this is a show. It's a singing competition show for gospel. I love it. It's pitched. We're going to pair you with the dude who we know does a great job on our award shows and all of our music specials. And that's Jesse Collins. And you're going to work with Jesse Collins. And you guys are going to do the show. And then you say, okay, great. Here's what I want. They'll pay you the money, whatever it is that you've agreed to. And then you ask for two things. You ask whether you created by credit. Only three things: created by credit, executive producer credit. But if you have a production company, what you want is this: you want a card, you want a production card at the end of the production, so we can go. My company's Shot Caller Productions. You can go Shot Caller, JCE, Jesse Collins Entertainment, BET, boom. You're never going to run that production. Technically, it'll be Jesse's like 80%, and you get whatever's left of it. But now, whatever else you got in your pocket, you can now go to someplace else with another show because you've got one on the air. And now it's off and running. Now your production company gets a little bigger. And they say, maybe you can handle this one. Or they pair you with another company, but you get a little bit more of the pie. Once a show is on the air and off and running, you can then, start pitching all these other ideas. The best thing you can do is once it's up, it's, and people where they make the mistake in regards to these shows is sometimes they'd rather have 100% of nothing. And then that's where they lose. When you can have 5 or 10% of something and your 100% of that next show is coming up. It's only a few short years away. I'm very sure when Shonda Rhimes pitched all of her stuff, it wasn't all Shonda's production company in the beginning. There was different people joining on board until Shonda became an 800-pound gorilla and became the woman, that she was able to get a production company and handle it all. And it'll work the exact same way. So some people, it's my show, and I'm executive producer. But bro, relax. You're gonna get all that stuff. But what you want that show on the air. If Sky walked in and he says, I'm pitching this show and blah, 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 just out of curiosity, do you have anything on the air right now? I sure do. I have Sunday Best on the air with BET and Viacom, and that's doing very well. It's number one, series for BET in 2019, and we're looking forward to another year in 2020. Great. This next show I have for you is something I think will be pretty cool. Check this out. I got it. Now we're cool. Now we're cool and off and running. So some people get more caught up in losing the rights for something. I'm going to say give up the rights, but make the deal, take your little 5-10%, and keep it pushing. The dude who created Sunday Best is still getting a check, and he's nowhere near that show. Hasn't been around that show for freaking 10 years. Still gets a check. Lives in Florida, still gets a check.
Every time the name come up.
Huh?
Every time the name card comes up.
Yep, every time the name comes. Got it. And his name is still in the credits. Got it. Haven't been on set in 10 years.
So what would you say to a content creator or storyteller that's just getting started and they don't have an agent yet, or maybe they're in the business but they're not like at the level where they're pitching their shows to anyone yet? Because a lot of times to be in some of these situations, you have to have that agent. How do you get there?
Sure. One of the things that you can do, slightly risky, but I mentioned that if I was to go to BET and I had this freaking, singing show or whatever it is, they team me up with Jesse Collins. And I got that. It totally makes sense. Or if I can't get into BET because BET's not just going to take Tony just coming off the streets with this show. Ain't going down. What you can try to do is find your own 800-pound gorilla. So it's not uncommon back in the day when I would pitch my show ideas to dudes who already had shows on air. So as opposed to BET sending me to bringing Jesse Collins to me so he can produce my show, I went directly to Jesse Collins and I said, I think this will be really cool. Now, with that being said, you've already copyrighted the project. It's already this, it's already that, it's already blah, blah, blah. So you got a better chance. He may sign that ND. I know some people who you bring a show to that if they're real big players in the game, I mean, major, major players in the game, this is where it gets a little weird and where you have to be careful. They'll make you sign an ND, a non-disclosure agreement for your show that you pitched it to me. I like it. I mean, I take it, but if you see something that's very similar to what you pitched me on the air by my production company, you can't come after me. Like, what is that? That we can't do. So when you're going to these major production companies that you're going to try to get them to hopefully pick it up because, I know you did Survivor, or you did this, or you did that, or you did Big Brother. I know you'd be great, or you did this, or you did that. You want to make sure that you've got your ducks in a row because they'll say, before you pitch to us, we need you to sign this agreement that if you see anything like this here, you won't sue us. Sometimes they'll even do this. They'll say, I really like this show. Have you taken it to anyone else? And you'll go, no. And I go, great. We want to do a deal where we hold on to it for 4 months. And you don't pitch it to anyone else. And then we'll decide after that what's going to go now. But we like it. Let us flush it out. Let our people flush it out, and we'll go from there. So sometimes you will get that as well. And that's a weird one. That's something you have to think about because sometimes you go, oh my God, it's just great to have a deal with so-and-so. And sometimes you're like, no. But then sometimes you can say, they'll ask you if you're taking it someplace else, and you'll say, yeah. And they said they liked it. And they said they're going to make a decision within the next 2 weeks. And I'll go, okay. And that'll put a little fire on them as well. But a lot of times they will say, we like this. Let us flush it out. Promise us you won't pitch it anywhere because what they don't want is a show that has a ton of no's behind it. They said no, this said no, that said no. They just like to think they had something fresh and they had it first. It's the exclusivity of it all that they like. So
that's dangerous too. It's like
it is absolutely
a gamble to say yes. You send it to someone.
Yep, you're excited. You're excited as hell. The fact that somebody actually liked something that you came up with, you're excited as hell. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, talk about your building a relationship with an agent because I've had sort of both sides of this conversation. On one side, you hear, "Oh, I've got an agent, but they don't do that much for me. I'm still doing all the footwork." Mm-hmm. On the other side, you hear stories where I've got this agent and they didn't start, or they were with me from the beginning, or they didn't start until they saw that I was already doing something.
Sure.
How do you pick an agent, and what's the process behind that? Because that seems to be a little bit.
Yeah, it is. I think with agents, I tell them that it's not their job to get me a job. It's their job to get me in a room so I can get myself a job. So if you adopt that mentality first, you'll be straight. My agent is, Absolutely fantastic. I'm with William Morris Endeavor, which is the largest agency on planet freaking Earth. My agent is Evan Warner, and he just has his finger on everything. It's so funny with Evan because I always tease him. I said it's like being at the bar with Brad Pitt. Brad's gonna get all the honeys, but even the ones that Brad don't get that just want to hang out with you are still gonna be money. Evan has literally all the top multi-camera directors in town, exception maybe one or two. But if you're upper end multi-camera director, Evan's got you. You're at William Morris Endeavor. And I say that to say, and using the Brad Pitt analogy, there are shows that Evan has put me up for. And I'm like, really? I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even, that when you got that agent, that's literally the first call. That's the first call. Even if Evan's first 5 directors turn down the gig because they're booked. It just literally falls right in your lap. He's always on it. It'll just fall right in your lap. Like, really? I got that show? Yeah. Congrats. Cuts the deal, cuts it quickly, always negotiates his part. So he tries to get the plus 10 or whatever it is to see you go home with as much money as possible, understands the long game. If you do this, it may not be much, but moving forward, this is what it could be. He knows the jobs that I always tease him about that I call tire and rim money. It doesn't pay much, but I had to do a set of rims out of it. So for me, he is always in the know. He's never overhyped in terms of and he's a bit of my boy, and just how we roll together and how we roll. I like our relationship. I can be 100 with him. He's 100 with me, but like I said, everyone's gonna be, if you got a multi-camera show, he's gonna be top 2 dudes you call. I'm sure there's some cats at CAA and a few places here and there, but multi-camera, and you're talking about your top 8, 10 directors, Evan's got them. There's 1 or 2 at the very, very top that he doesn't have, but director number 3 on down, there's a chance he got him. And you would think that, well, then does that mean you're competing? Does that mean that all these directors are all fighting over this one chunk? Nah. It just means that he has a director for every situation. Oh, it's this kind of multicam thing, and it's like a little bit of music and the sports thing. Oh, you must want Tony McCuin. Oh, it's sitcom with the sketch, blah, 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 blah. Oh, you must want so-and-so. Got that too. We're more like a Swiss Army knife for him. And he can just boom, boom, boom. And if you want one of his upper tier directors, chances are you can't afford him or that dude is booked. But Evan goes, no. That being said, he's booked and you can't afford him. You're about 10 grand off. But just one below him is Tony McCuin. And you may be able to make him get that one. He may do this for you. Let me see what I can do for you. So he is always just on it. So I was with William Morris, and then I left, and then I went with a couple of agents. And then I had Robin Ladder Johnson, who was kind of my manager, my agent, who did a fantastic job. Where Robin was strong was she used to be a former executive, and now she's an executive again. But she taught me how to talk to executives. And she knew executives, so she was very personable with them. So when she recommended a guy to come in, Robin had a great reputation as an executive, so clearly the guy she's recommending must be on point too. So I like that about her, that she could, and she was great when it came to pitching shows because she knew what the networks were looking for. They told her. And so she knew exactly what to do. So when she finally did go back into being a network executive, and then I made my way back to William Morris. So I've been with William Morris now. I started with him for 5 or 6 years, and now I've been with him for about 2 years. It's been great. It's been, Evan does great deals, and like I said, great personality. We get along well, and he's a straight shooter, but he's a dude, so he makes the same dude jokes that I make, and we have a great relationship, and I'm never leaving him. He's my guy, and it's kind of dope. Every time I say William Morris Endeavor, I get a little tingle, like holy crap. No, it's that moment. Did you really? And so that's a bit of a pulling up at the club in a Lamborghini moment when you say William Morris Endeavor. Oh, okay. All right, my dude, I got you. You ain't no joke.
Yeah.
So I like that it comes with that. I like the few times that I've been in the office. I'm like, yo, they rep you, yo. Where they that big building there? You see that in Beverly? Yeah, they're your reps. Your reps in there. So that part's, there's some that is my Hollywood moment.
Yeah.
That's where I floss ever so slightly, is that moment right there. Everything else, whatever. But the fact that, I'm at that agency and it's the world's largest, and I know, like I said, just stuff just trickles through there all the time. And Evan's always all over and just like, yo, you with William Morris, bro. Just heads up, just so you know. It's a good feeling.
That's gotta be. I mean, to know that you've made it to the top.
Yeah, it's a moment.
That's an accomplishment in itself, and to have made it there and still be young enough to enjoy it and have so much
sure
of you to do. Like you're not even at your best yet, I'm sure.
Right. That I don't know. I wonder if about my retirement and just okay. I'll pick my top 3 shows and then I'll move on from there.
That's because you like to party.
That's it.
You like to have fun. So, here's a question. Like while we're in this break with COVID, clearly production is stopped, and we don't know, or maybe we do know a little bit of what the plan is for how they're planning to move forward. But what would you say to people that work in production or seeking production jobs who are not at work or not working? What would you say to them for them to do to like stay sharp or stay aware of what's going on?
Right. Yeah, you're gonna definitely have to figure out a way to stay sharp. And there's many ways, obviously, with people editing and making TikTok videos and this and that and the other thing. But you're gonna have to stay sharp for bigger reasons than that. And that is when this is over, the floodgates are gonna open. And there'll be so much production that you won't know what to do. I'm telling you, trust me, I've heard it from a lot of different sources that when this is over, TV production people, directors, myself, they're in tiers. There's your A-listers, there's your B-listers, your C-listers, and your D-listers. Those are the tiers you have. And, if you think about the A-listers and you think about the Grammys and the Billboard Music Awards and this and that and the Oscars and the Emmys, if you look at that crew list, it is identical. It is the same group of people that are moving from show to show to show that are on that A list, very short list. And it goes on and on and on and on. It is my understanding that production companies and networks are so starving for programming that they are not willing to slide the schedule. So in other words, normally you would get you have award show season, and then it's award, and then 2 months later, like I mentioned about the Grammys, John Legend can be into 2 months, 2 months, 2 months. So that's how the crews can slide, even though they're already pre-working on them. That's how they slide. Well, what if they didn't slide? What if, the Grammys on CBS we're February 13th. And the Emmys were always saying, well, no. And we are going to be, we're going to keep our normal time of February, 19th, because we've always done it on the 19th, and they didn't slide. That means that one crew wouldn't be able to prep in time for that other show. Who's the other crew that's going to come in? And suddenly that crew that was in the B list may have just had an opportunity to sneak in and show their stuff. Then you make your way to the next one, and Oscars are at this time because all people are thinking is that we need fresh programming. We need to get something on the air right now. Because while you weren't working and I weren't working, there were certain situations where producers weren't working. So if you tell me this show is coming back, let's try to keep the same date and keep this thing pushing. So you're going to get an onslaught of everything. If you think about everything that's happening in, online with Twitter and Twitch and blah, 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 you're going to have an onslaught. So my advice to the crew members is get ready because it is going to be a feeding frenzy. My last 3 job offers have all come through in this quarantine. My last 3 have all come through this quarantine. I did it through Zoom. And some were major shows. And here's the thing. Normally, they are, you meet, you go to the office, you do this, you have to see this, you meet the producer, then you meet the network, and then you meet this, you meet that, and blah, blah, blah. The meetings are going more like, we're hoping to shoot in July. It may move to this. It may move to that. We want to book you now. Everybody's looking for their director and their this and their that now. Because what we want to be able to say is, when this is over, we're ready to go. We're the most ready production on planet Earth. You just got to turn the key and we can go. You have your director? You have it booked? I got it booked. Okay. I got shows right now that are booked. I'm like, I don't know if this, no, don't book out. No. Stay right here. We're going to sort this out, but don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. And so I mentioned to you about that. Well, now there's a crunch coming. There is a crunch coming. Even in my world, there's a crunch coming. I mentioned that I do the NFL show, pregame show. NFL announced today that we're going to open up September 10th. We're doing the first game. We're going to do it. Whatever. I don't know what the situation is, but we're going to do it. Well, I'm normally just doing NFL. Well, now I've got these other shows that I booked as well. They normally happen in the summer. So imagine Sunday Best now sliding down. And Sunday Best saying, now we're open in Atlanta. We're all good. We're ready to go in September. And I'm going, well, I'm doing this right now because normally you guys are supposed to be done at the end of April.
Right.
Then who gets that slot? Somebody does. Some other director does. So for everybody, if you're in Atlanta and you did the Hawks game, and all of a sudden the Falcons are playing, and the NBA decided to restart, all of a sudden that all squeeze in, and all of a sudden, I can't do Hawks and Falcons in the same day. What's that kid Skyler who's pulling cable for me? Who's doing this? Give me him. Find out what he's up to. Everybody's chance to shine is coming up. It is impossible. It is impossible. There's no way I see myself being able to keep my crew. There are going to be bigger names than me asking for something, asking for one of these dudes. I'm going to go, what was that dude I knew that I met back in the 70s? You think he can do camera? It's going to happen because the production is going to crunch. There's they were shooting this Idris series for BBC in New Mexico. And they had to stop, obviously, because of the virus. And obviously, Idris got the virus as well. That studio, they freaking locked it down. The production company booked it for 9 months. They're booking studios to keep other people from getting them. That's how bad this thing, when it's over, everybody better be ready because the production companies are hoarding the studios right now. I'll just pay for the 8 months right now. We'll just hold tight. So my advice is definitely, take your walks or find a treadmill, keep yourself, on point a little bit as best you can, because when it hits, it's going to hit extremely hard and it's going to be an absolute feeding frenzy. And a lot of folks who normally don't get that shot, who's going to get that shot simply out of gluttony. What if it broke tomorrow? How quickly would production start up on these things? Like in 2 seconds flat, LA will be on fire right now. Will be absolutely on fire. Except everything. Except building, we're hauling ass. LA would be on fire right now. The minute this thing is even remotely, and they're talking about lifting a little bit in LA now. My guess is, we'll see what happens in, mid-May. They're definitely working on it here in Cali, and how the studios can work things out. And I've seen concepts and control room designs already for the shows that I'm working on, of where I sit, and everybody's 6 feet apart, and there's another 6 feet behind me, and how that all lays out. So they're already designing trucks and doing all this stuff, to make it happen. My boys at the NFL Network did the draft from home. What? You mean to tell me I can be in my pajamas and cut something up too? I saw one guy who did esports, which is all the rage and freaking
Right.
be around forever. Yeah, he had like 19 cameras in the cloud. Some other dude was switching. They were all robos, and he cut a whole freaking esports championship tournament. So, it ushered in a new world, but it ushered in a world where everybody can get some.
What
You
position
can
do you
damn
think?
near you can damn near live anywhere you want almost right now. You're getting really close. Like, I'm getting really close to just being able to, because I can't picture me legitimately going into many more offices to have a meeting now. It was always my thing. I drove in LA, had my meeting, drove back, all good, whatever. I'll bet you 90% of my meetings moving forward will all be off Zoom. And the first time I come in will be to look at set design. If that. They can put a document on Zoom and we just all there. And the first time I come in will be freaking on set. But there's no doubt, that floodgate's going to hit, and it is going to be a ton of work for everybody.
With that said, what positions do you see sort of phasing out because of this versus what things are going to become more important in production?
I don't know. I think probably you're probably going to have a director that can probably TD and direct at the same time, which means that either A, you're getting rid of the TD, or B, you're getting rid of the director, letting the TD direct. But I would see that happening if they did it from home. I would imagine that there's probably going to be some points where that's all going to do. I think, yeah, that's it. I think camera wise, it'll be interesting. I hate robotic cameras. I don't like using them. I just, they have no feeling and no soul. And you can imagine trying to do the stuff that, you and I have worked on together in Sunday Best with a
Right.
robotic camera. I would want to kill myself. It wouldn't work. But I don't know how robotic they will get. I don't know, that's gotta be one way of doing things. I mean, there's just only a few things that they've got to sort out in terms of audio delay with a lot of this stuff, in terms of even through the PL system and, through talent, that once that gets figured out, it'll be real interesting to see where it goes. But it is a bit of an exciting world. Though I'm not a tech head, I'm not afraid of it either. In my world, I'm like, holy cow, who knows? Maybe I'll just be sitting by the pool, cutting up Soul Train awards. So you never know. You never know. It's difficult for me, and I remember talking to a good TD friend of mine, and she says it would be difficult for her to TD from the house, because so much happens in that truck that's based on eye contact and being able to follow mood and where I'm at and how I feel. You've been in a truck when me and Miriam in the truck, and how we flow
Right.
and all that stuff. You have to be in the same room to make that happen.
Yeah.
You couldn't be thousands of miles away. So I think that would be that'd be something that you have to worry about the soul of the show being taken away and becoming too robotic. That I think would eventually just couldn't feel it. And that's our superpower, is that we feel stuff. And I think that's why sometimes people don't understand how we as Black folk, how we cut and how we do stuff and how we direct. Sometimes it's because, we feel it. It comes through us. And, I think we have to have that. And, I guess we've been talking for 3 hours, so I guess I'll say this as I start to wrap things up, is do not, man, I'm telling you right now, do not let anyone make you be ashamed of your soul, of how you can feel a song, how you can feel a show, how you can feel a shot, because it certain folks don't comprehend it. They don't understand. It really is. Like you hear Black Girl Magic and this magic and that magic. It really is a magic that we have. And sometimes our, our biggest problem is that sometimes we make stuff look too easy. We as a people make it look too easy. We flow, we see it, it's there, we go. And meanwhile, you got all these dudes that are taking 8 billion notes down just to come up with a single shot and this and this. And we can just get, I've got a wide, a kite, a blah, blah, blah. Don't let them take away your soul. I can cut a show, particularly music, only hearing the song. And if you've got the right crew, you don't even have to market other than certain beats and things in a song. And then I got a bit of a reputation for he's just kind of winging it. And I guess you could say that, but I could flow, and it worked really well. And so I had to come up with a way to combine those two worlds of marking things that were important to have, but knowing when to let it flow as well. Because at first I got to the point of marking because I wanted to be like all the other directors and mark every little thing, including when they pick their nose. And you're now looking here and not looking here. Your head's in the wrong place. So I just started marking certain things. And then certain things I knew, this is how it's going to go. And I work with ADs like, Miriam Legier and like Debbie Palacio, who is, the most organized AD I've ever, she could be the most organized AD. And Miriam is probably the strongest music AD that I've ever been with. And so I'm surrounded by people who let me be creative. So Miriam is counting to the T. Bang, 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 bang. I mean, I can cut, figure it out, and sneak, and blah, 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 blah. And I like that style. And she'll know. Sometimes she gives me way too many cues, like modulation. I'm like, don't care. I just want to know what this is. Give me the chorus. And she'll count little nuances and notes because she's an MD. That's how she rolls. But I learned from her as well. And Debbie is really organized and knows exactly 2 shot here, this is what you have marked, this is what you have laid out. And what makes her dope is I'm cutting something. I mentioned Jill Scott earlier, and she is my AD for Jill Scott. And I have this Steadicam's going to come down, it's going to come to Jill, blah, 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 cut to Jill on a single, whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. She goes in her second song and blah, blah, blah. And she's still counting to second song and blah, 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 blah. Steadicam comes down, and then I cut to a reaction shot of Jamie Foxx when I originally said I was going to cut to a single shot of Jill. Debbie doesn't stop with what she's counting. I know you cut to Jamie, but I'm going to continue to move forward, and then you can jump back in. She didn't say, you said you were going to Jill, and now you're not. And now the whole train is just falling apart. Debbie keeps the train on track. So she'll go guitar solo and 5 bars guitar solo, 4 bars. And I'm like, and 6, and 4, and 2, and guitar solo on 3, take. Debbie keeps the train going. She allows me to sneak in 4 more shots that I did not have planned before I got to her count. So I have 2 very unique ADs. One is just unbelievably musically and can count her ass off. I've never seen anyone break down a song without lyrics and can figure it out in the whole thing like a Miriam Legier. And Debbie's the one that can, like I said, so organized that I can do a rehearsal and be like, I think I'm gonna make that camera 5 instead of camera 8 and run it back. And she'll go, okay, it's 8 now. Like, yo, I was just thinking about it. I wasn't really sure. It's already there. I got you. Your call, but I do have it. And we'll tell that crew, hey, moving on now, you're not going to have this, you're going to have that instead. Run it back, here we go. And, with both of them, they're both women. They are both women who I listen to. So, I think that women have an internal thing that us as guys don't always have, or we always trust. That they can just say when something's not right. And so, an example, even with Debbie, was in this year's Image Awards. I did this whole Kobe Bryant tribute, and it was off the chain. It was part of the obit. So at the end of the obit, with John Singleton like being the last picture, we dissolved to a basketball that's got a pin spot on it. It's a low angle God shot. And in the screen, it's Kobe, as he's, it's got all this stuff in the screen with him and his daughter and the whole shebang. And I built this Laker-like cue. And then in the screens left and right, these giant monitors, Kobe's jersey falls down like it's a banner. And it's this whole dope-ass thing. And Steady does this rap. And then Steady does the rap, and then it backs out center aisle. And as it backs out center aisle, rather than fade to black, I faded all the lights in the house. Got it. I'm trying to do something different. I'm going to fade all the lights in the house. And the timing of fading lights in the house is much harder than lights on the stage. But we finally got it right with the right kind of fade and the right kind of everything. So I run this thing like freaking 8-9 times. I run it and I finally get it right and it's all good. And then Debbie just looks at me and she says, I don't know. And she wanted, I said, stop. So hold on. Said, what do you mean you don't know? And she goes, that made me feel sad. And I go, all right, well, it's a bit of an obit, so I got it. It makes you feel sad. She goes, no. She says, everything was chanting Kobe, and it was holding the trophy and his daughter, and then you faded the lights in the entire room. And I felt like it was darkness. And I went, I'm out. No light fade. We'll fade to black on air, but we're not going to do the light cue. After building that thing over and over again, it was just her woman intuition of just like, that's not how I want to feel when I watch this. I want to celebrate his life a little bit. And I would dope move, dope everything, never did it before. And I killed it right then and there. I do it live and we go to black. And I said, okay, guys, get ready. It was Act 5, get ready for Act 6. And JR and Zeke, who were on cameras 7 and 8, said, Tony, and I go, what? He goes, everybody's crying. There's not a dry eye in the house. And I went, we did it right. He says, dudes are losing their minds right now. Grown men are crying. And I went, done. We did it right. Miriam Legier does the same thing. I could be doing something. Remember last year it happened in Sunday Best, and I won't say the particular act, but as I'm doing it, she's going, I'm telling you right now, this is not going to go well. What are you talking about? Miriam comes from the Christian place. Christians are not going to like it. They're going to hate it. Let's cut this shit up. Let's go. I'm telling you right now. Sure enough, when it aired, blew up the internet. This is awful. Why did they do that? Blah, blah, blah. She was dead on. She was dead on. So there's just something about, and you've got certain women in your life in production, Debbie Palacio, Miriam Legier, Carrie Snow, our stage managers, that they will just know that they'll come from a different place that you're not looking at. Because all you're thinking about is just what makes it cool, what makes it this, what makes it that. I mentioned that, how I used to know I did a good job on Celebration of Gospel was when we would watch it at home and my wife would start crying. Oh, okay. I don't need to see the rest of it now. I'm good. They have an internal thing that they just know when it's right. So I'll leave you on that note, bro.
Yeah, that was amazing. So I've got like 2 questions left, and they're kind of in this.
Please.
Um, on one, you've been talking about like not losing your soul, not losing yourself, being able to, uh, stand up and trust uh, what you're doing and what you're saying and the decisions that you're
Mhm.
making. And we've also touched a little bit about um, sort of the disparities and the issues that come across with relationships and how people are seen in our industry.
Mhm.
Um, the first time I was actually able to interview for a few minutes was last year, and I was doing
Mhm. And the truck, sure, I remember that.
about diversity. And here in Atlanta, I know like you know most of the crew here is Black, but that's not how it is everywhere else in the country. Can you
Mhm.
talk about sort of the difficulties, or if there are, with um, being above the line or being in the room and being able to really uh, express the importance of certain voices or doing things a certain way?
Yeah, there's, what you're hoping for is that it's always an elephant in the room. It is. And again, you don't want to lose yourself. So you're always just kind of making sure that you're on point, that you didn't sell your soul, that you didn't sell out. Um, you're held to possibly a different standard. I didn't say a higher standard, just a different standard. And there comes a point where um, you think you've got which is just how you feel, and it's not necessarily true, that you got the whole weight of your race on your shoulders riding on this show. But that said, there there does come a point where you're I always believe that good TV is colorblind, and you're hoping that after a while that you're not the Black director, you're the best director. And that's what I try to strive for. I look for common denominators in every room that I'm in. You're a Redskins fan, you're a Cowboy fan, you like classic cars, whatever it is, you like 80s music. So whatever that common denominator is, to show that you and I are not so different in certain respects. I I'm definitely I'm definitely aware, and I get stuck sometimes. And I've had my moments where I got a little stuck, and I was just like, okay, how do I check someone without looking like I'm losing my head, kind of thing? Or sometimes you don't have to, because it's that Maya Angelou saying of, if someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. And sometimes just knowing who they are is good enough. I'm a big dude that somebody will just say something that's just slightly a little sideways, and I go, all right, player, I see you. Now I got it. And now my approach to you is different. So sometimes you don't have to hit a dude in the throat. Sometimes you can just get that information because of, their arrogance and their privilege, and they're thinking that it's okay to say that stuff. And they may say it just slightly, they're trying to be politically correct, but they're not quite politically correct. You just go, I got you. I know where you stand. And now moving forward, I know how to navigate this production. Worse than not checking them is being blindsided because you didn't know Dave was like that or Bill was like that. Knowledge is legitimately power. And if you know how they roll, you're at a huge advantage. And so you can even prepare. I know how they roll. I know they ain't feeling me. And then your priorities will shift a little bit in terms of now, going back to Deb Warren and ESPN, don't leave here without your pockets fat. What do I hope to take home? Because I tell you what, I can knock that show out of the park, but I can check somebody in the meeting and all they'll be talking about is how I checked somebody in the meeting. Or I can knock that show in the park, out of the park, they don't bring me back, but how was he to work with? It's fantastic. Boom. You know, TV is the only job that I know of where a person get fired from 1,000 jobs and still wind up balling. Like being fired sometimes is almost a badge of honor. I got let go from Kimmel. I got let go from this, but now I'm directing so-and-so. Well, that's how it goes. And it is because that pie is being sliced up. First, it got sliced up network TV by cable. And now cable's getting sliced up by the internet. I can remember directing the red carpet shows for BT and different little award shows. And they're like, okay, you're doing the red carpet. And then there's going to be, as you know, always a Facebook show. And there's a Facebook red carpet. And I'd be like, kid rocks, I'm never freaking doing that Facebook shit. Not going to happen. Really? Now Facebook has got 15 cameras and a jib and wireless steadies and all kind of, that Facebook show turned out to be no joke now. It's the real deal. So there's so many outlets now that you don't have to be the freaking militant, but you definitely don't have to sell out. Be cordial, be on point, be courteous, make your point. Don't take any shit either. Just learn how to say what you need to say. But most importantly, it is about people showing you who they are. And that works both ways. I've had dudes that I thought, look, Black people we can't help. We walk in the room and go, oh, that dude right there. And I already know he's one I need to watch. And that dude wound up being your ace. Your dude was down with you, your ride or die. Love that. Happens all the time. Oh, that's the dude I need to watch right there. What? He just put me up for 4 other jobs. Or even not even that. He just talks to you about all kind of stuff. He just turned out to be cool. So, I navigate by first understanding that when they show me who they are the first time, I believe them. And then I think about the knowledge that I just gained, because I saw you, but you didn't see me. We straight.
I'm just absorbing that. I'm sorry, I had to take a moment. Just
That's all good.
feel that in. Lastly, we've had a chance to listen to you kind of go over your illustrious career. You're still going. You still got a lot of years in you. You still have a lot to say. Pointing back to that moment where you put that camera on Jamie Foxx, and he had that pivot. What do you want to say or do with your career before it's all said and done?
I definitely want to be someone that my family is proud of. And I think my family is very proud of me. They support me. I couldn't ask for a more wonderful family. My wife is always on my team. My sons, they laugh and they love what their dad do. So, and my brothers, my whole family, all the McCuins, they're all on my team. But, from that kid from South Central who didn't go to college, I'm just hoping there's maybe 1 or 2 kids, 1 or 2 folks that are looking at me and going, I can do that. It's more than being respected. I just would want them to think that, if that brother did it, I can do it. I didn't realize what I was doing, had such impact until, I had directed already, I don't know, probably 8, 9 Super Bowl pregame shows. And I'm sitting in Houston. That was the Patriots and Atlanta Falcons when they gave up that whole freaking, But we won't get into that. But I'm doing that. But I'm in the tent, just kind of eating lunch. And when you're during the Super Bowl, like all the crew is in the tent, and you know, and it was interesting because I'm just I don't really talk to them. They're all from all over the world and the whole shebang. And I'm just sitting, holding my head down. I'm just, eating my food. And a dude walked up to me and said, "You don't know me. My name is John Smith, and I'm from Nebraska, and I just wanted to shake your hand. Um, I don't know of any, brother who's ever directed the pregame show for the Super Bowl. And I definitely don't know if there's any brother who's here who's a director at all. And, we've all heard about you, and we all know who you are, and we've followed your career from all the other Super Bowls you did. And I just want to say, brother, it's a pleasure, and we're all so proud of you." And then that's when I realized just a little bit of the impact, a little bit of, you know, okay, okay, I got it. I always tease my wife and tell her all the time that, sometimes we'll walk someplace, or we'll be in LA or whatever it is, and someone will go, "Tony McCuin." And I'm like, "I don't know you." But I'm always courteous and kind. I think that's the only way to be. And I forget that people know me. I'm not famous by any means whatsoever, but I'm humbled by it, and I'm humbled by, you know, black cameramen who come up to me, or black tees, or whatever it is. And, it's like, it's so funny. It is the opposite for me. If I see a black Steadicam operator or a black jib operator, I'm like, my man. Doug, who did jib for me for a little while for Sunday Best. Doug.
Yeah.
All right, Doug. All right, my man. I didn't know you existed. You're like a unicorn to me. I imagine that's what makes me like, when folks see me at the Super Bowl, because I'm like, Doug, all right, let's go. So I understand their excitement for, or just proud, but I'm the same way when I see a black jib operator or a black Steadicam operator. I'm just like, I get excited, and the whole shebang as well. So, but I do understand my impact and what it has, and it is particularly not, for the youth, but really it's those dudes who's been in the game forever, those brothers who have been in the game forever, who come up and shake my hand and go, my man, good to see you. I directed Thursday Night Football pregame for CBS, and it was just, I knew no brother had been in that chair for that. If so, there may have been one or two, but not many. And that, when sometimes I do that when you're kind of crossing new ground, or when you're breaking into something. And I remember JB just saying, "Hey, good to see you." And JB was the nicest man ever. He shook my hand and just, "Good to see you." And he gave me that nod, like, "You go get this. You go get this." We talk about dudes who are hating and player hating and this and that and blah, 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 blah. They're way more rooting for you than not. If you're talking about real dudes, if you're talking about real brothers and sisters, they're way more rooting for you than not, by a long shot. You're talking about dudes who are on the fringe, then I get it. But real brothers and sisters that are trying to make it through the game, they are rooting for you. They are rooting for you big time. So there is a sense of pressure, but there's also a sense of pride. And, I've got a sister who's a Chiron op for me, one of my shows, and I'll knock out something in some dope move or whatever it is and do that. And I'll kind of look back at her, and she'll just give me the nod. Yeah. Yeah, you got that ass. You killed him now. That was a sweet move. And she'll just give me a nod, and I got it. Keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing. And so there was just those moments there. that probably more than anything that I live for. And when they go, yeah, I'm watching you, my dude, you did your thing. And I live to make them proud of me. So it's pretty cool.
Man, I literally have goosebumps listening to you. This interview is more than what I could have asked for. I was definitely nervous coming into it. I know we've had many conversations over the years that are usually short and in between work, but this is an interview that I've actually waited for, a moment that I waited for since I met you. I'm so thankful. And I want to give you all your roses while you're here and while I have an opportunity, because you're such an amazing person. And I want people to have this opportunity to really hear someone who's made it to the top and to see what an amazing guy you are, why you made it.
Well, I appreciate it, my man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It won't be long before you're sitting next to me, so I'm not worried about that. Well, I'll be interviewing you in a minute.
Man, thank you. That's so humbling to hear from you. Yeah, I mean, this is incredible.
Thanks for having me.
Now you guys know why Tony's the Miggity Mac and the big baller shot caller. Thank you so much for joining us. Please reach out to him, tell him thank you, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. This is why I got in. Peace.
Peace, man. Cool.
Hey, for a second, Tom.